It was due to a technical hitch. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on your location. We thank God for yet another opportunity to come your way again with time with George and Joyce. We are so grateful to you for making time to join us this time. We won't have a program without you. And so, for choosing to join us this moment, we really appreciate you. We say, God bless you so much for joining us once again. Your being interactive with us keeps us going, and it helps us in shaping the direction in which we need to go. Of course, we come to your way with the word of God, believing that God has information to give to you in helping us in living our lives on earth even before we wait for his coming. And so it's important that we listen to the voice of God as to how and what to say. But then your being interactive also helps us to direct the course of our communication with you. And so please keep it on coming. We want to make this evening's program, like always, very interactive. God bless you so much. I want to say a very big thank you to the operators of FBN, and especially to my producer this evening, Asafumami Esla Kofi. God bless you so much. And of course, my wife, Pastor Joyce, is also around the corner trying to help in producing this evening's program. For me, there are three important C's in marriage. And we believe that these three C's, as in letter C, are very important for the success and sustenance of every marriage. One of the C's that we consider is commitment. I will believe that if one is committed to a cause, the person will do everything within his reach or her reach to make sure that it's a success. And just like any human cause, if you're committed to your marriage, you are burdened to make sure that you would always do the right thing and do everything to make it a success. And so one of the three C's that we consider very important in making a marriage successful is your commitment to the marriage. The other C that we consider is conviction. You need to be convicted about your marriage. Now, you need to believe beyond any reasonable doubts that your marriage is the best and it's going to work. Now, if you're not sure about your marriage and you don't believe it will work, any little stroke of the enemy, any little blow from the enemy is able to shatter it. And so you need, after commitment, you need to be convicted. You need to be convicted about your marriage. So first one is commitment. Second one is conviction. And the last one, which is going to be the topic, which is the topic of this evening's discussion or program, is communication. Communication. We believe that every successful marriage is the one that the parties involved communicate. Now, I always want to start by saying that a good marriage is not a gift. A good marriage is not a gift. Any family that you see, any marriage that you celebrate, any marriage that you hear that that the couple have been able to stay together for 10 years, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, didn't come as a result of a gift from God. It was the individual contributions, conscious contributions, intentional contributions from the parties involved. husband, wife, and of course God. God always does his part. And so as couples, we need to understand that if our marriages are going to be successful, then we should be ready to contribute. All right. And one of the areas where we believe that needs to be considered well is communication. Now, we believe that if the husband and wife are able to communicate well, it saves them a lot of trouble and a lot of pain. It saves them a lot of trouble and a lot of pain. Now, Bible says, according to Matthew chapter 19, verse 6, that and what God has put together, let no man put asunder. One of the things that can easily put couples asunder is lack of communication or miscommunication. Lack of communication or miscommunication. One of the first signs of putting asunder is related to communication. Miscommunication or breakdown of communication then leads to the marriage going ditch. I want to encourage you to really share the link, share the page. Let your brothers, let your sisters come and join us. We definitely want to keep this evening's program very interactive, and therefore please share. And when you come around, let's communicate, let's interact. Put your contributions across, and we're going to read it. And of course, if you disagree, I don't present myself as a reservoir of all knowledge, and therefore, even as God has blessed us with the opportunity to be able to come to you, we still believe that when we interact, when we communicate, we'll be able to get a better understanding of this very crucial thing that needs to be considered in marriage. Now, you need to understand that if you give the enemy a foothold in your marriage, he will turn it into a stronghold. And so, if there is anything that needs to be dealt with, as far as communication is concerned, you need to really deal with it. You need to deal with it. Miscommunication is a failure to communicate clearly. Miscommunication is a failure to communicate clearly. Where breakdown of communication has got to do with a lack of communication entirely. All right. Now, I remember so many years ago, we lived in Kumasi, and I had to travel quite a distance to get to my school. Those days, from Texas and so to Garrison, and so I bought the trotro. And for those of you who are quite of age, you still remember the trotro where the throttle, the back of the throttle was three rules, where two of the rules we set such that will face each other, and the other rule will be behind you. And I remember we used to have a lot of peddlers that will come and sell native drugs, herbs, and all those kind of things. And most of the times, after they've sold all that they have, or after they've spoken about what they are selling, and we've not still reached our destination, some of them will tell jokes, some of them will tell riddles, and all those kind of things. And I remember one of these days, I was quite young. I think I was even less than 10 years. A man shared a story on the trotro, and it has stayed with me ever since. He said that there were a couple who had a misunderstanding. And so, you remember those days, it was the man that would give the housekeeping money. And so, the wife will always go to the market every day. And so what the man did was that, because they had a misunderstanding and they were not on talking terms, instead of saying anything, he put a bowl at the hall, and he will put money inside the bowl. And on a particular day, whether he wanted to eat light soup, he would just put garden eggs and tomatoes in, to signify that he wants to eat just light soup. And on a day when he wanted to eat palm nut soup, he will put palm nuts alongside the money in the bowl. And when he wanted to eat groundnut soup, he will put a groundnut alongside the money inside the bowl. And then on that particular day, when the man puts the money and the groundnut soup, groundnuts into the bowl, when the woman came, there was a cockroach who apparently had seen the nuts and wanted to go and eat the nuts. And so when the woman came, she didn't find just money and groundnuts, but also found a cockroach. And so the woman assumed that the man wanted to eat groundnut cockroach soup. And so when the man came back the evening of that day, he came, and when he was served his food, he had a lot of cockroaches in the groundnut soup. And the question then, I remember well, was the man asked was that, was it the man's fault or it was the woman's fault? But that is a story that I believe, if you've not heard, possibly has gone round a while. But the whole problem came as a result of breakdown of communication. Something happened, and they didn't think that it was important as a husband and a wife to sit down to discuss the problem. And so they decided to go on that tangent, which led to another trouble. And I believe chances are that it will lead to divorce or maybe a lot of other trouble. And so it is important that as a couple, we take care, make sure that we look critically at communication. Now, I want to start off by saying that, or asking a rhetorical question, that is there anything in your life that your spouse doesn't know? Is there anything going on in your life that your spouse has no idea of? Is there anything that that you are involved in that your spouse has no idea? Now, one of the few things that I've come to realize that is the breakdown of a lot of marriages in Europe and in America, I mean in the diaspora, is when a family are here together as husband and wife, and they are not able to discuss everything. And so the wife does her own things, the man does, the husband does his own thing, to the extent that some of them will build houses back home without the other knowing of. And many a time, when the other gets to know of it, it's too late, and it brings a lot of problems, and many a time leads to divorce. And so, is there anything that you are involved in that your wife or your husband doesn't know of? Is there anything? Now, I remember not too long ago, I was in a program and they were talking about our past and how important it is that if you discuss your past and it will create problems in your marriage, you better keep it to yourself. I always find it difficult in just accepting it. I understand there are spouses that are quite immature and therefore may not be able to handle the stories that comes from your past. But then The question is, now, if I was an armed robber and I am keeping this from my spouse, and she hasn't got any idea that I was an armed robber. What if out of the blue somebody comes from my past and starts demanding or blackmailing me because he knows my past, and possibly my spouse hasn't got any idea of who I was in the past? And so if I was afraid that my telling my spouse was going to create a problem, what if she gets to know, or he gets to know, through a stranger, and the person is able to prove beyond doubt that whatever it is that the person is talking about is true? And so I believe that as couples, even as we are discussing communication this evening, it's important that we never leave any opportunity for the enemy to get hold of. Now, having said that, spouses should also understand that you are a human being and you're married to a human being who didn't just wake up one day and was a man, who didn't just wake up one day and was a woman, who didn't wake up, who wasn't born a Christian, who wasn't born a matured Christian, and so definitely had a past. You need to be mature to be able to handle everything and understand that if the person has turned on a new leaf, whatever it is that happened in the past remains in the past. And it should be matured enough. Now, most of the times, people are not able to discuss the things that they went through and their lives that they lived in the past, simply because their spouses will usually, when they have a disagreement or they have an argument, the spouses will always bring it up and then use it against them. And so, if your spouse is finding it difficult to discuss anything about himself or herself, then you need to understand that you are not trustworthy. Your husband or your spouse can't trust you. That is why he or she is not able to discuss his or her past with you. Now, we are talking about communication. We are talking about communication. There shouldn't be any opportunity for the enemy to get into our marriages. And so that is why one of the things that you should look out for when you are intending to get married is ask yourself whether you are matured enough, because marriage is for men and women, not for boys and girls. You need to be matured to be able to manage every information that comes up. Now, I believe that, and the last time I said that you should be ready for unexpected surprises. And some of the things that will surprise you is the past of your spouse. And so, even as we are talking about communication, if there is anything in your life that your spouse doesn't know and you are finding it difficult to discuss with your spouse, I pray that God will give you the grace, and also your spouse the grace, to be able to manage whatever information that there is, because it's always creates a much bigger problem when the past or the information of the past is communicated not by the spouse but rather communicated by an outsider. I mean, you can tell me that, okay, it is my past, it's in the past, and I want to keep it like that. What if you are able to do it? Okay, then maybe you save yourself and your spouse that hurdle or that problem. But what if somebody comes from your past to come and disclose it? And so this has always been my point, that if there is anything in your life that needs to be known by your spouse, it should come from you. It becomes less traumatic, it becomes less disastrous when it comes from you rather than come from another person. Now, why will you build in a village and your wife will not know anything about it? Now, if you're communicating with anybody and you are able to hide it from your spouse, if there is any ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend that you're communicating with, if there is a man or a woman that you were once involved in and you're communicating with, and you are able to keep it from your spouse, I am telling you that you are only courting trouble. And so it is important that there isn't any part of your life that is ever hidden from your spouse. Ever hidden from your spouse. There are people that even earn a lot of monies and their spouse doesn't know how much they earn. They only know that they work. And there are people who are even working and their spouses don't even know the exact thing that they do in their offices. Now, if your spouse is not sure about sharing his or her past with you, I said, then you need to earn the trust of your spouse. It is important that you earn the trust of your spouse. Every little information that you receive, make sure that you manage it well so that it will develop trust in you. And you also need to develop the habit of trusting your spouse. Let us manage the information we are giving our spouses well. Let us manage the information that we are giving by our spouses well. Now, I want to say this, that if your spouse finds it difficult to share things about her with you, but rather call friends and share it with them, then check yourself. And you ask yourself, why is it that my spouse would rather speak with a friend? And sometimes it's not even just any friend. Now, they would rather discuss it with my friend. My wife would rather discuss pertinent issues with my friend rather than discuss it with me. Then it means that she doesn't really trust me. Because one of the things that also helps in communication, helps communication in marriage is that when you are a couple and yet you are best friend to each other. When you are the best friend to each other, and so the communication is important, but there are things that sort of hinders the easy communication, flow of communication, and some of these things are what we are talking about, that you should be able to um, earn the trust of your partner. You should be able to also develop trust in your partner, that each of you will be able to share information freely with each other. Now, for you to be able to earn trust, you also need to be friends with each other. Now, make sure that you are just more than a husband or a wife. Make sure that you are the best friend. My wife hasn't got any friend that will know anything that I won't know. Same with me. We are best friends. So anything that can be discussed needs to be discussed first with us, and we decide whether this one we want to share it with the world or we don't want to share it with the world. Now, so there shouldn't be anything about you that you find it difficult to share with your spouse. There shouldn't be anything about you that is sort of a secret. There shouldn't be anything like that. There shouldn't be anything done in the absence or the blind side of your spouse. There shouldn't be things that you do that this one my wife doesn't know about it, or my husband doesn't know about it, because many a time, by the time she finds out herself, by the time he finds out himself, it will be a thing of, okay, so you decided to hide this from me. What other things are you hiding from me? Let me start also keeping things from you. And that is where the enemy steps in and will use it against you. And by the time you know, the enemy has possibly brought you asunder. Very important. Very important. Now, Amos chapter 3, verse 3 says that two can only walk together when they agree. And now, you can agree when you communicate. And so, you can achieve goals together, you can set targets together, you can meet targets together, you can raise children together, you can have a lot of things together if you agree. Now, agreement doesn't necessarily mean that you have the same opinion. Agreement is basically you communicating your view, and me communicating my view, and we comparing our views or our opinions and saying that, okay, I think out of the two opinions we choose this one. And now when we choose a particular opinion, it becomes our opinion, so that if anything happens and the opinion we chose doesn't work, then the other won't come and point fingers and say that, now, if you had agreed with me. No, we decided together. And once we decided together, it means that everything or anything that comes out of it was a decision that was taken by ourselves. Amen. If I may ask, I'm trying to check whether I have any messages coming in. All right, I want to say that please share the link, share the platform. Let us keep also this program as interactive as we can. Now, I have one person coming and saying that communication is very important and necessary for the growth of any marriage. It happens a lot in diaspora. People build houses in Africa without the knowledge of their spouses. Yeah, like I was saying, people build houses in Africa without the knowledge of their spouses, and many a time when the other party finds out, it becomes a reason for breakup. And so, even when they decide to stay together in a room, what it means is that, oh, maybe we need to just, I need somebody to share my bills with. Let me just say, but they will start. Uh, I mean, it creates a lot of problems. So let's make sure that we don't keep a lot of things from our partners. Let's not keep things from our partners. Now we're talking about agreeing, and we said that agreement doesn't necessarily mean that we will have the same opinions. Of course, we'll have different backgrounds. I mean, I come from a different culture. Of course, we are all Ghanaians, but the culture in which I lived, I grew up in, is quite different from the culture my wife grew up in. We have different. We have a lot of differences as far as our character traits are concerned. I mean, a lot of differences. But at the end of the day, we're able to live together and we're able to achieve a lot, because after I brought my opinions, after she's brought her opinion, we sit down as a family and we discuss and we choose between the opinions, and the opinion we choose becomes our opinion. And we'll make sure that we work towards it. We make sure that we work towards it. One of the things that needs to be done together in agreement is also prayer. Now, The question is, we are talking of communication, but the truth is that if we are not able to communicate even our thoughts, then we will not be able to achieve much. So that is why we brought in the Amos 3, verse 3, that you are able to communicate your thoughts. You are communicating your displeasure, and at the end of the day, you discuss it. That is what we are talking about. Now, the point where we discuss your intentions and your thoughts and your opinions of the matter is important. Now, you don't say that, oh, okay, if you said it, let's do it and let's see if it will work. And if it doesn't work, you always point accusing fingers at your partner. But you rather get involved. Communicate. Communicate. Now, communication, as as Oxford Languages would put it, is that the imparting or exchanging of information. Imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, writing, or using some other medium. And so it's important that you get involved in the discussion, you impart knowledge. Okay, this is what I think. Okay, what do you want to do? Is there a business that we want to start? Okay, you have the background. I remember not too long ago, we were having a discussion with the operators of FBN, and the man said that now this is not my field. That is the field of my wife, and so let's do it when she is around. And when she came, of course, we could realize that she understands it better, and the man understand that this is the field of the woman, and so let her handle it. This is it. And so we need to understand each other to be able to agree and understand that this is my strength, this is her strength. And so when we are doing this and it's borders on her strength, let me give her the opportunity to lead. It doesn't necessarily mean that I am being a weak man or I am giving out my role as a husband to my wife. No, it is a matter of agreeing, and it is simply because we communicate, we share, and we exchange information, knowledge, so that we grow together as a family. We grow together as a family. Now, having said all this, you need to understand that we don't have much time, so I have really compressed a lot of things so that we'll be able to get through with all that we need to get through. Now, the actions you take when you are grieved, many a time people are like, you do me, I do you. If you don't greet me, I don't greet you. If you say hi, I will say hi. If you talk with me, then I'll also talk with you. Now, in marriage, if it becomes like you do me, I do you, you always have a lot of troubles, and you'll not be able to enjoy the God kind of blessing that He bestows on marriage. You need to understand that you should be ready to forgive and forgive easily. One of the things that hinders communication is when we become habitual lawmakers and law enforcers. Okay, you did this to me, and therefore there is a law, and I'll make sure that I enforce it, and blah 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 blah. You should be ready to forgive. Now, it happened the first time, she didn't greet you. Okay, you greet her, and maybe she will learn from you. Or she didn't say sorry when it happened. You say sorry, even when you are not wrong. She learns from it. Don't do you do me, I do you. Now, how do you manage anger? Now, not too long ago, I was just going through a story. I was just pondering over a story that I heard, and it was said that the man that wrote the book was saying that a time in his life that the wife took a very stupid decision that cost them a lot of money. And so when he got of the news, when he was driving, all that was going, he said that all that was going to the house to go and tell her, wife was that, how could you be so stupid? Well, I mean, he was just ready to go and insult the wife so that the wife will not make such a mistake again. Now, the kind of business that they are into is such that they need to take a lot of risk. And the man had believed that the wife will always take the right decision. And unfortunately for them, that particular day, the decision that the woman took didn't help them. And so, because they had lost almost everything that they had got saved the whole of their lives, he was so angry and he was going back home to go and tell the wife how stupid she was for having taken that decision. But then he said that when he went home, because it was quite a journey driving from where he was to the house, he had enough time to ponder over what to say and everything. The initial inclination was go and insult her, but when he got home, by the time he was home, he had a better idea, and he said that, honey, the, the decision you took had cost us a lot of money. And instead of using harsh words, he was able to communicate the same feeling, but through a lesser harsh word, or through not using harsh words. And at the end of the day, the woman has understood it very well. And thanks be to God, after they put themselves together, after a couple of months and a year, they were able to recoup whatever it is that they lost. But I believe that, and this is what the man was saying, that if he had not been careful and had possibly went accusing the woman all the time, forgetting that it was her decisions in previous times that had also helped them make a lot of money, and had gone that day to go and insult the woman and everything, maybe, just maybe, the marriage would have ended then, and they may not have been able to recoup whatever it is that they lost. And so, when you are angry, and even when your spouse has done the most stupid thing, you could still use other languages that is not insultive, that is not denigrating, that is not abusive, and yet will still be able to convey a good message to help her understand. I remember several years I was listening to Archbishop Duncan Williams, and he said that when you feel you're so angry that when you open up your mouth, what will come out you will live to regret. Keep quiet, pick up your key, and drive away. And he was speaking to the men. But today, I'm saying that even as a wife, if you realize that your husband does something that is so stupid, I still use the word stupid because there are some decisions that we can make as human beings that are so very, very unwise. Even if your husband or your wife makes, and I want to speak to the woman now, if your husband as the head of the family even makes a very unwise decision and it costs the family so much, it is important that you choose your words well, because you may speak just one thing today that will cause him so much pain, and it will always create problems for you. You don't need to be violent to be able to communicate your dissatisfaction. Let me repeat it. You don't need to be violent to register your dissatisfaction. You don't need to be abusive to register your dissatisfaction. Or most of the times, the words that you speak out will be very difficult to swallow or take back. And by the time you know, you've destroyed the marriage and the beautiful setting that God has given you just by your words. So, in anger, we need to be careful of what we say. I remember years back, I was like that. Now, when you do something and I feel it is very wrong, I would usually want to use harsh words so that you always feel the pain so that you won't do those things again. That was when I was a kid. But growing up, I realized that, oh, that is not the case. If you really want to solve a problem, even when the person has done something wrong, there's no way you choose harsh words. Because most of the times, once you choose harsh words, even when the person is feeling remorse, you start insulting the person and using harsh words. Instead of the person continuing to feel remorse, the person will, or may, most of the times, will start feeling angry, and it doesn't solve any problem. It doesn't solve any problem. Now, whenever there is a problem or there is a situation in a family, it is important that you attack the situation and the problem and not the person. All right, your spouse is in the kitchen. All you hear is um, clashing of plates. You rush inside and you see the plates that you bought not too long ago, very expensive plates, crushed and destroyed on the floor. Instead of shouting at your spouse, you can first pick up the broom. I nearly said basin because that's the German for broom. You can pick up the broom, help clear the kitchen, possibly if she's hurt herself, help her see to it that she's had first aid, and possibly clean the mess or clear the mess. Then afterwards, you can ask what happened, and maybe, just maybe, you realize that it was an accident. Not too long ago, I traveled to Austria, and I was quite tired by the time I got to Austria. And so when my wife called, I also had some problems that I had to deal with. And so when she called, I wasn't able to speak. And she dropped it. As a matter of fact, I didn't even realize when she dropped it. And so when I had dealt with the problem, I tried calling her, and for like over 1 hour, I was not reaching her. And I asked myself, so what is it? You never know what caused the break in communication when I was there. So why are you not picking up? And so I just sent her a message. I've been calling you. You're not picking up. Oh, what is? Then I intended to use some other words so I could get her attention. As a matter of fact, I wasn't so happy that she wasn't answering the call, and so I tested, and after 2 minutes, I deleted it so she didn't see the message. But then, after 2 hours, she called and told me that she was asleep, and so when she called that time that I wasn't able to speak with her, she just dropped the phone and slept, and that was it. And I knew that by the time I was leaving Germany, she had not slept a whole day. And so it was then that it occurred to me that, yeah, it's true. She was so tired and possibly she has slept. So you see, now if I had not been careful and had used harsh words because I was not able to reach her, what it was going to bring was that we're going to have trouble, because she would also want to say that I am not just trying to reject your calls or not refusing to pick up your call. It's just that I slept, and it will be back and forth. And before we know, we'd have had some problems. And so it is important that whenever there is a problem, you take your time to attack the problem rather than attack the person. Communication. Communication. So simple a word, but so vital in making sure that our marriages work. All right. Um, I see that Ohineba Nanaya is watching, and he says, God bless you. So for we appreciate the time that you've taken to join us this evening. And I see, Puku Mafo is also watching. Puku Mafo is watching. God bless you. Sister Esla says that in marriage you forgive in advance. In marriage you forgive in advance. God bless you. Please, let's keep it interactive. Let's keep it interactive. Let's keep it interactive. And I was counseling. There's a young family that we were communicating with who had problems, and we realized that one of the problems that they had is that the woman will never accept her mistakes. Now she does a lot of things, makes a lot of decisions that will always cost them a lot of pain, and sometimes will even cost them money. And when the man complains, it doesn't matter the medium or by the way by which he complains. The woman is always quick to defend herself and always give excuses and would rather get angry. Now, just like I said, that you should be ready to forgive. But then, when you make a mistake and your spouse complains about it, you should accept blame and say sorry. And so I remember about 4 weeks ago, there's this guy who called me and he's saying that now there are a lot of things that is going on in his marriage, and yet he's not talking about it again simply because they've not been married for long, I think for a year or so. And right from the beginning, he saw a lot of things that he wasn't happy with. But anytime he complained, the wife will get angry and will turn around and say that, but I also did this 2 days ago. You also did this, and why are you complaining about mine? And so these days, he's not talking about anything that the wife does that is not good, and yet he's not happy with it. So he's saying that, Papa, if he continues like this, all you hear is that I've left the marriage. Now, the woman doesn't know that that kind of behavior is killing the marriage. And so I had to take it upon myself to call the lady and let her understand that whenever your husband is complaining about something, it's an opportunity for you to get better. Whenever your husband complains about anything, it is an opportunity for you to get better. My wife said that there are a lot of things that she took for granted, but when we got married, and especially when we moved together, we lived together. When she finally decided to come, we staying together. She has learnt a lot of things because when she does anything that I complain about, she realized that it is something that she needs to change to make her a better person. And so in so doing, I also had to also make sure that I will also turn on a good leaf anytime she complains about anything. And so we need to accept blame when then there is when there is a complaint from our spouse about us. We need to be ready to accept blame, accept fault, and not jump to defense. Not jump to defense. One of the things that is very important is understanding that when a Bible says that, according to Genesis chapter 4, Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, and also Mark chapter 10, verse 7, that for this reason shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife. What it means is that, and then you will become a new family with your wife. Now, there's a story that was told to me by my wife, where she was saying that there's this guy that would always want to go to the mother and father to counsel before he does anything. Now, it's such that it was always disturbing the wife, and they always had a problem, and unknown to him that it was a problem. It was as a result of the husband always resorting to the mother and father before consulting the mother and father before coming to the wife, and it doesn't matter the decision that they will take as a family, um, husband and wife. If the husband goes back to the mother and father, and the mother or the father says that you should not do it, instead of coming back to the wife for them to discuss again, he'll just go about and implement the decision that was taken by him consulting the father and mother. Communication. We're talking about can two agree unless, can two work together unless they agree? Amos chapter 3, verse 3. And yet you want to discuss anything with your family before you would want to implement it. I mean, I'm not saying that when you reach a point of indecision and you can have good counsel from your mother or your father, you should not go there. But it becomes a problem when instead of discussing it in total with your wife or your husband, you want to go and take counsel with your parents, and it will be more of enforcing the decision of your parents on your spouse. You've been here for a while, and we want to be bringing the program to an end, but I want to read a few comments. Okay, Imara Ponsa, my mate in Kumasi, is saying that Pastor Juan Georgido, Ima, God bless you. God bless you so much for joining us. And Ohineba Nanaya ho, Ohineba Nanaya ho, Sofo, um, most reverend. The importance of communication in marriage is often not taken as seriously as many couples tend to think that the daily banter or the lack of it doesn't affect them on a day to day. But communication is the vehicle through which all other important parts of marriage are performed. Rev, I want to take your contribution again. I want to take your contribution again. The importance of communication in marriage is often not taken seriously, as many couples tend to think that the daily banter or the lack of it doesn't affect them on a day to day basis. But communication is the vehicle through which all other important parts of marriage are performed. So communication is very, very important. As a matter of fact, even on sexual matters, most of us are not satisfied. And I was reading somewhere this afternoon that most ladies, Ghanaian ladies, are having extramarital affairs simply because they are not satisfied by their husbands. And I am tempted to believe that most of these women that are involved in extramarital affairs haven't even had the opportunity or the 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 the, the bravery, the confidence to communicate their dissatisfaction with their husbands. You know, but I believe that, like we said, that if you are in a relationship with your husband and you are friends, and you there is something about you that you cannot talk about with your spouse, then it's giving the enemy the opportunity to have his way with you, and most of the times will lead to the divorce or the breakdown of the marriage. And I believe all the things that it's creating is when women are involved in extramarital affairs. Extramarital affairs. Now, because if you are able to talk about your dissatisfaction in the bedroom with your spouse. And like we say that as a spouse, you should also accept when there are complaints laid and also work towards it. And so if as a husband, your wife tells you that I'm not happy in the bedroom, you take conscious steps in making sure that she is satisfied. You ask questions. Most of the times, when we have our classes, and in a few weeks we are going to have a program that we hold, Power of a Praying Woman, and also other platforms that we have. We are going to have pillow talk. Now, the other time I was teaching and I was saying that now, for even as a man, for you to be able to satisfy your wife well, you should communicate in the bedroom. Even whilst you are having making love, you should communicate. You should ask if she's okay, if you are hitting the right spot. Unfortunately, I can't be saying stuff like that because possibly we'll have young people coming on. But I mean, you should be able to ask questions. Can I touch you? Is it the nipple? Is the nipple enough? Is there any part of your body? You need to ask a lot of questions, and as a wife, you should also be able to give a lot of answers. There should be communication, just like Rev said that it is important. Communication is the vehicle through which all other parts of the marriage is performed or conveyed. Conveyed. You cannot, you cannot, you cannot, you cannot know every part of your body and the body of your wife as a man if you are not communicating. Well, some of us are able to pay attention, and when you are there, you are able to notice that okay, I tagged that part of the body and she was happy, and therefore let me notice, okay, I did this, I was hanging on the bed and she was happy, and all those kind of things. But most of the times you need to ask a lot of questions to be able to satisfy. And men are not able to complain and also talk about their dissatisfaction in the house. And so when they close from work, instead of coming back home, they want to go to a particular joint, go and stay there, simply because he's not satisfied in the house, and they are not communicating, they are not talking about problems. But then the best way to be able to solve problem is when the other party knows that I am erring, I am making a mistake. And how can the other party know I am making a mistake if you don't talk about it? If you don't talk about it. And so today, I just wanted us to introduce the topic of communication in marriage. Um, it is something that we are going to delve deeper in, and so please share the platform, share the link, share when we announce it, when the flyer comes out. Please note the date. Come on, let's keep it interactive, and we'll definitely learn the more. It's important that we communicate with each other, share the information that we have with each other so that it helps us. Now, I want to say that um, we have some books available to help in building a long lasting relationship with our spouse. And so please, if you have any need of some of these books, please contact the operators of FBN, and they will help you. Books by my wife, books by Reverend D.Y. Donko, and also other well-renowned counselors in talk. And I want to quickly read a few comments on the Facebook, and we'll come back to the topic and we'll draw the curtains on today's program. Now we have Mr. Juliet watching, and she's giving us thumbs up. Mr. Julie is in Austria. God bless you for joining us, Sister Julie. We have Pastor Francis saying that communication is the life wire of every relationship, including marriage. And he continues to say is that very important. God bless you, Pastor George. I've learned a lot. Like I said, this is just the introduction of the topic communication. We definitely will go on next time we come around. We'll delve deeper into communications areas where we need to delve deeper into, and some of the problems that arises from lack of communication, and of course a lot of solutions that you don't even think of because there was communication in the relationship. And so please make it a point to join us same time next 2 weeks on this same platform. And before we go, I want to say a very big thank you to all the people that passed through. My very good friend Emmanuel Amponsa, my soldier man. Thank you for joining us. Sofo Sifa, Most Reverend Sofo Sifa. Thank you so much for joining, Sister Julie. Thank you for joining, and Sister Mina and all those other people. Sorry, I can't keep track of all the people that joined today, but we appreciate your time and we thank you so much for joining us today. I want to say a very big thank you to the operators of FBN, and also a special thank you to our producer, Sister Esla, for the time and for all the good work that you are doing. We say a very big thank you to all the viewers all over the world, and especially to all of you who kept the line interactive. We've enjoyed it. And like I said, in the next 2 weeks, we'll delve much deeper into communication. And we trust that there are a lot of solutions that we'll have in lieu. And because that we had information come to us. God bless you and have a very good time wherever you are. Bye.